The dust of Gaugamela still clung to the air when survivors swore they saw the earth tremble under the weight of Persia's greatest army, a living tide of steel stretching beyond the horizon. Yet in the heart of that impossible storm, one man stood unblinking: Alexander, young, relentless, a commander whose certainty felt almost divine. His enemies marched with millions, but he answered with precision sharper than any blade. What happened next shocked the ancient world forever. Stay with me, and before we continue, remember to like this video, subscribe, and join us on this journey into humanity's darkest and brightest moments. They say the morning of Gaugamela smelled of sweat, dust, and burning fear, for the Macedonian soldiers knew they faced a force orders of magnitude larger than anything previously recorded. Many had not slept, whispering prayers to gods who felt impossibly distant beneath the weight of dread. The Persian host stood across the plain like a city of moving armor, their banners rising like waves. Yet Alexander walked among his men with calm intensity, touching shoulders, meeting eyes, reminding them why they marched. In those small gestures, he resurrected courage where terror had begun to carve its slow, merciless wounds. To the foot soldiers, the world had narrowed into one simple truth: survive or vanish beneath the hooves of Persia's war machines. Spies brought stories of scythed chariots forged to shred flesh, elephants armored like mobile fortresses, and ranks so deep they swallowed the horizon. Some Macedonians held charms from their mothers, others sharpened dull blades in trembling hands. The night carried a strange stillness, broken only by distant drums from Darius' vast encampment. That steady rhythm felt like an omen, a reminder that the greatest army in history stood ready to crush them before sunrise bled across the desert. Yet among this trembling humanity walked Alexander, composed, perceptive, almost unsettlingly serene. He had studied every contour of the battlefield, memorizing its ridges, loose soil, and narrow faults invisible to ordinary eyes. His strategy formed not from bravado, but from understanding the human spirit. Fear could blind armies, but confidence could resurrect them. He reminded his companions of past victories, of shattered walls at Tyre and the blazing triumph at Issus. Even in whispers, soldiers repeated his words like scripture, believing that if death approached, it would find them standing beside a man who refused to bow before fate. Alexander understood that a battle of this scale was never merely a clash of soldiers, it was a reckoning between civilizations. Persia's empire had shaped the world for generations, its kings ruling through wealth, ritual, and divine authority. To challenge such power seemed almost sacrilegious. Ancient legends whispered that Darius commanded armies blessed by gods older than Greece itself. Yet Alexander believed in human will over myth. He saw empires not as eternal forces, but fragile structures built on fear, pride, and hesitation. The fate of nations, he knew, could hinge on a single decision made at the perfect moment. Across the plain, the Persians prepared with grim determination. Their soldiers came from distant kingdoms: Egyptian archers, Babylonian spearmen, Bactrian cavalry, each bound to the empire's colossal promise. Some historians claim Darius looked upon Alexander with admiration, others say jealousy, and others still insist fear shadowed his gaze. Whatever his true emotion, he possessed an army larger than any before or since, a living monument to imperial might. But size alone does not guarantee victory. Beneath their magnificent banners lay unease, for many had heard rumors of Alexander's genius, his ability to read battlefields like prophets interpret divine visions. When dawn stretched across Gaugamela, Alexander sensed the tremor in the air, the potent mixture of hope and terror that precedes catastrophe. The ground quivered with the advance of Persian chariots, their blades glinting like silver fangs. Macedonian infantry tightened ranks, shields locking in a barrier as unyielding as fate. The earth shook with thunderous hoofs, dust spiraling into choking clouds. But Alexander had prepared them meticulously. Gaps opened in his line exactly as intended, creating channels where the chariots would lose momentum and become trapped. What looked like weakness was a calculated invitation into a fatal snare. As the chariots broke upon the Macedonian formation, chaos erupted: screams, splintering wood, horses rearing in terror. Yet through that violence, Alexander remained relentlessly focused. This was only the storm's beginning. Beyond the shattered chariots waited Persia's elite cavalry, a force so vast it threatened to envelop his flank entirely. Instead of retreating, he performed what historians still call one of warfare's most daring maneuvers. He angled his line slightly outward, creating a deceptive gap that lured the Persian cavalry deeper. Their momentum, once a weapon, now became their prison, pulling them into a vortex from which escape was impossible. At the exact moment Persia overextended, Alexander acted. With the companion cavalry at his back, he pivoted sharply and drove straight toward the exposed heart of the Persian formation. Witnesses claim dust rose behind him like a comet's tail as he led the charge personally, lowering his spear with ferocious precision. This was not recklessness, it was destiny carved into motion. Macedonian riders sliced through the Persian center, shattering command structures and unraveling communication. One could almost feel the empire's breath falter. Alexander had pierced its lungs, cutting straight toward the place where Darius watched the battle descending into ruin. Darius saw Alexander approaching like a storm made flesh. Panic rippled through his royal guard as Macedonian cavalry carved a path through ranks once believed impenetrable. Some sources say Darius attempted to rally his forces, while others claim fear overtook him, compelling a retreat that shattered Persian morale. His chariot, adorned with gold and royal symbols, became a symbol of unraveling authority. Soldiers who once stood proudly now fled in confusion, the empire's colossal strength dissolving before their eyes. In that moment, the psychological tide shifted irrevocably. An army that believed itself invincible had discovered the taste of fear. Yet victory did not come without devastating cost. Macedonian infantry fought desperately on the right flank, where Persian cavalry attempted to crush them under overwhelming force. The dust made breathing nearly impossible, and screams tore through the battlefield with haunting persistence. Blood drenched the earth, forming dark rivulets that clung to sandals and armor alike. Some soldiers fought until their limbs failed, collapsing into the soil that swallowed them mercilessly. Alexander's triumph overshadowed the suffering endured by those who bought it. Behind every calculated maneuver lay the bodies of men who followed him without hesitation, even when the world collapsed around them. When the Persian line finally crumbled, the battlefield became a graveyard of shattered spears and abandoned banners fluttering weakly in the wind. Survivors wandered in shock, stepping over fallen comrades who only hours earlier had whispered hopeful prayers. Many would later recount that the plain smelled of iron and smoke for days, a reminder of the horror that had unfolded. Alexander rode among the wounded, his expression a complex blend of triumph and sorrow. He had accomplished what no Greek had ever dared, yet even in victory, he understood the terrible price of ambition and the fragility of human life. In the aftermath, historians say Alexander stood upon a small rise overlooking the bodies of thousands, contemplating a future forever altered by his actions. He did not see himself as a conqueror blessed by gods, but as a man navigating the shifting currents of fate. His triumph at Gaugamela reshaped civilizations, dissolving the Persian Empire and stretching his influence across continents. But he also recognized the tragedy intertwined with greatness. Empires rise on foundations of sacrifice, and their builders carry the burden of memory. Alexander knew the world would remember his brilliance, but few would understand the wounds he carried. Some ancient writers claim the spirits of Gaugamela lingered long after the battle, whispering through the desert winds like restless echoes of ambition and regret. They believed Alexander's victory marked not only the fall of Persia, but the beginning of a journey that would consume him from within. He pressed onward, conquering cities, crossing mountains, and chasing horizons that receded endlessly before him. Yet after Gaugamela, something within him shifted. Perhaps he recognized that triumph and tragedy walk hand in hand, inseparable companions following the footsteps of those who dare challenge the immense structures of power shaping human destiny. As Alexander continued east, he carried the lessons of Gaugamela etched upon his soul. The battle had revealed truths rarely spoken, that even the greatest armies collapse under fear, that strategy can defeat overwhelming numbers, and that leadership is forged not in comfort, but in the crucible of mortality. His soldiers looked to him with newfound reverence, yet he sensed the weight of responsibility growing heavier with each victory. Greatness had become both a crown and a chain. The memory of fallen companions haunted his nights, reminding him that glory demands payment in blood, loyalty, and endless sacrifice. Years later, when Alexander's empire stretched from Greece to the edge of India, survivors of Gaugamela still recounted the battle as the moment when the world changed forever. They described the thunder of chariots, the brilliance of strategy, and the young king whose certainty felt like a force of nature. Yet beneath the stories lay a deeper truth. The largest army in history was not defeated by numbers or brutality, but by a mind that understood the anatomy of fear and courage. Alexander's genius annihilated Persia, but the echoes of Gaugamela would follow him always, a haunting reminder of glory's price.